Welcome to another video, part of this series where we're building an e-commerce website with Django. If you'd like to follow along, you can just go to our Django e-commerce GitHub repository. The link is in the description of this video. Once you clone or download this, we can get started. Before we get into this, we just released our new course where we build a software as a service with the Django REST framework and React. We cover everything from scratch all the way to deploying. So if you're interested in more advanced and in-depth Django courses, then head over to our website, justdjango.com. The link is in the description of this video, and otherwise enjoy this one. So in the last one, we ended off with our checkout view. We can go proceed to checkout. And we worked on this form and mainly the styling and handling the submission of this data. And we didn't touch anything to do with this kind of promo code and displaying the items that are in the cart. And we will get to that in a separate video where we'll talk about promotion codes or discount codes and how to create those. But in this one, we're going to continue with the payment method that was based on what you selected here in the form that you submitted. And we can view that view, which is in core views, and that should be here in the checkout view. Once we submit the post request, we then get all that data, and some of the fields we weren't addressing yet, but one of them is the payment option, which is something that we need to do here. Hence we added this to do, which is to add a redirect to the selected payment option view where we'll handle taking in that payment from the user. And so I'm just going to make another class-based view, which will also inherit from the generic view. And I'll just create it here. We'll say this is the payment view. And it's just going to inherit from the default view. I'll say define get, takes in self args, keyword args. And I'll just say return a render of self.request, and we'll say this is to payment, let's say payment.html. Then I'll bring that into the URLs, and then I'll say that the path goes to payment. I'll say payment view.asView and say name is payment. And I'm also going to pass in kind of like a slug, which will be the slug of the payment option that was selected. So I'll just put here payment option, and that could either be Stripe or PayPal. And then here in the templates, we're going to need to create payment.html. And I'm going to take everything from the checkout, just paste it in there. And there's a lot that we also don't really need. So all I'm looking for is this kind of container. And I'll say this is payment. Then we have the row, and we've got these two columns. I'm just going to get rid of that second column there. And in this first column, I'll say it's column medium 12. And then we have this card. I'll keep that form that we'll use, but this second form I'm going to get rid of. And then I'll uncomment this here. And actually, I'm going to specify the class to have that card body like the other one. So if we go to /payment/Stripe, right? And we obviously don't have any form that's in our context variables. And I'll just say this is submit. But this entire form is actually going to be handled by Stripe. So I'm going to go search for the Stripe docs, and I'm going to look for charges. And we'll see creating charges, and we should be able to see a form. And if we look for Stripe.js and elements and just scroll down, then this form here, I'm just going to inspect and I'll just bring this open a little bit. And so we're basically looking for where this iframe starts, which you can see is right there. And if you copy that entire HTML element, you can come inside here and actually pretty much remove that entire form. And you get a whole bunch of stuff. We get these iframes, and I'm just going to go down here. We'll get rid of pretty much all the iframes, the body, the HTML, And we have this entire script tag as well that I'll cut out, put it here at the bottom. And then we have the form. I'm just going to tab that in so it's looking a little bit better. Then the script has to stay there as well. And then the div wrapper, I'm actually going to remove, and it ends here after the success token, which I'm also going to remove. So we just have that. And then we've got the head tag I'm going to remove, and this entire style tag, I'm going to cut that out. And all of this inside this script, I'm going to delete that, going to delete that and the body tag. So everything's inside this card, and then just come up top here and we'll create a block, and we'll just say this is the head links, and I'll paste all the style in there. And if we take a look back here at base.html, let's just see if we have that block. And okay, it's extra head. So just change that name. Okay, I'm going to get rid of crispy forms tags, and I'll get rid of the body and HTML styles there. Okay, so now we'll have a form generated by Stripe. So if we come back here, I'm going to change this to be the Stripe form row. And if we just come up here, we can get rid of the Stripe token handler and token handler hidden, and the wrapper, as well as the token. So dot token, get rid of that. I'm going to say this is Stripe form row. So let's come back and refresh this. And all right, that looks a little bit better. And I'll change this to an ID of Stripe form, so that if we come back here, this can be Stripe form. And instead of this being label, I'm going to make this the Stripe button label as an ID. Then we can come down, and I'll change this label to have an ID of Stripe button label. And then for the button, I'm going to make this the Stripe button, and come down here to the button. I'll give it an ID of Stripe button. And we most likely would want to see the order total like we do here in this view. So what I'll do is actually just grab this HTML, and then we'll display the form here to make the payment. So let's just go back here to checkout. So I'll make this back to column 8. And so let's just get rid of some of these. Okay, then we can close that one. And we basically just want this entire column. Cool, so if we come back and let's go to payment/Stripe. Okay, let's just see here why this isn't showing in the right way. So we've got that div there. So there's the form, and it looks like we have one too many divs there. Let's come back. All right, there we go. And I'm just going to minimize that, and let's open this up. And I'm thinking we can get rid of the promo code bit here. And what we'll do is, and we'll make this one column that spans the entire width and just display it on top of each other, because the spacing is quite weird. So let's just come up here, and I'm going to make this column 12 and column 12. There we go. And this looks fine. So now we need to just handle what happens when you submit this payment. And if we inspect this, we are getting this add event listener at this line, and that's coming from line 319 when we're trying to add an event listener to the form. So that's coming down here to get the element by ID of payment form. And we did change that to be the Stripe form. So we got to come down here and change this to Stripe form. Then we don't have this Stripe token handler, so we can get rid of that. Can get rid of that as well. Cool, so that seems to be everything. Let's just refresh this now. And okay, we've got payment form there as well. Try this again. And okay, cool. So now we need to go back here to the form and make sure that when we submit the form, that it's posting this request to the right URL, which is just going to be a dot. And that way, when we submit this, it'll post it to this URL. So we can go here to the view and we can define a post method to handle that request. So this will be self args and keyword args. And then we can actually go and search for the Stripe API, which is .com/docs/API. And I'm just going to go here to charges and then to create a charge. We're going to need to bring all of this in. And I'm just going to paste this here at the top. And instead of outputting that, I'm going to say this comes from settings. So I'm going to say from django.conf import settings, and this will be the Stripe test key, or sorry, secret key. Then we can take this charge, come down, and we'll just paste that over here. And we're going to need to make sure we get the token, which is coming from the request. So this will be token equals self.request.post.get, and it's going to be that value that we add here in Stripe.js. So if you scroll down, the Stripe token, that's the value we want to get as the token. And then we can just paste token there. And I'll change this to USD. And the amount will be the amount of the current order. So the order we're going to pass here into the context. So I'll just say order there. And here I'll also say that the order equals to order.objects.get, where user equals self.request.user, and where ordered equals false, so we get the current order. And we're going to want to get the total from that, because that's how we're going to pass the amount in. So that's going to be order.get total, and then we have to say times by 100 because this value is in cents. So if it's $20, then we need to times it by 100, so it's 2,000 cents. And the description I'm actually just going to get rid of. And now there's a bit of logic that we need to think about here when we actually receive this post request. Not only do we need to create the charge, but now we need to say that the order has been ordered. So we're going to have to change some of the values on the order model. So we'll say here that order.ordered equals to true. And then we're also going to want to keep track of the payments, because right now there's no way that we're keeping track of the actual Stripe payment, and that's very important. So we're going to create its own class for that. So we'll come down here and say that this is a payment class, which comes from models.model. And I'm going to specify the Stripe charge ID as a character field. And I'll make this a maximum length of, let's just say 30, or rather 50 to be safe. I'll pass a user, which will be a foreign key, to the user model. So that's just going to be settings.auth user model. And on delete, I'm going to say equals to models.set null. And this is just so that we definitely do not delete the payment if the user was deleted. And I'll just say blank and null are true for that. I'll say an amount equals to models.float field. And we'll add a timestamp and say this is models.date time field. And I'll say auto now add equals true. And then we can say define string of self. And I'm just going to say return self.user.username. And then this payment, we're also going to want to specify, like we did with the billing address, here on the order. So I'm actually just going to copy that entire line there. And this is going to be the payment, which is going to be a foreign key with the payment model that we just created. And I'll leave all of this the same. So now here, when we set order.ordered equals true, we also want to create this payment, and then we're going to assign the payment to the order. So first let's just save this, and we can also see no module named Stripe. So I'm going to say pip install Stripe, and then I'll say pip freeze into requirements.txt, and then I'll run python manage.py make migrations. Cool. Then I'll say migrate, and then we can run the server. All right, so now we're going to create the payment. So I'm going to need to go to the top here and import that model. So that's the payment model, and then we can go back down. So here we'll say that the payment equals to a payment. We'll say that the payment Stripe charge ID is going to be equal to the ID we get back from this creation here. So I'm going to say the charge equals to that API call, and then I'll come here and say charge.id, or we can access it like this. Then I'll say payment.user equals self.request.user. I'll say payment.amount equals to this here, and I'm actually just going to specify amount as its own variable. And then we can just say payment.save. So now we have the payment. Then we can assign the payment to the order. So I'll actually bring that here as well. And then we can say order.payment equals payment, and then say order.save. And we're also going to want to do some error handling here for this API call, because the card could fail and all the other types of errors. So you're going to want to just search here for Stripe error handling, and we can just go to this first one, handling errors. And then I'm going to select Python as the language. And I'm actually just going to copy all of that. And we can come in here. And I'm just going to create some space, paste this all here, and we can tab that in. So we're going to try use Stripe's library. And I'm going to have to tab some stuff in here as well. Okay. So we're going to try do the charge, which is what we'll do here. And if we get a card error, then it's declined. So what they're doing is getting this message, and I'm going to basically do exactly the same thing. So they're saying error equals body.getError, and I'm going to cut that out, and we can remove all of this, and I'm going to say messages.error from self.request, and I'll pass an F string and just paste all of this in there, just like that. And then you can handle the exceptions for the rest of these. So that being API connection, a Stripe error, or just a general exception. And this is kind of the main one, because this means it's something to do with you. So here I would say we send an email to ourselves, because this means you need to go and fix something in the code. And the rest of these, I'm basically just going to return an error as a message, and just paste them all here and get rid of all those pass statements. And then there I'll just say rate limit error, and here I'll say invalid parameters. I'll say not authenticated, and then we can do network error. And then this last one for generic Stripe error could just be something went wrong, and we'll say you were not charged, please try again. And then on this last one here, I'll say that this is a serious error occurred, we have been notified, something like that. And then all of this here, we're going to cut that out and bring that into the try statement as well. So just like this. And so after we save the order, then we're going to redirect them back to some page. And this would probably be like a profile page or a confirmed order page. And I'm just going to say return redirect to, let's just say / and I'll say messages.success, pass in self.request, and we'll say your order was successful. And then we're also going to want to redirect if these errors happen as well. So I'm just going to add a redirect for all of them. So what we should see happen is when we test this now, we're going to create a charge. We should see that the payment is created, and we should see these parameters on the order changed as well. And then the redirect should be like the final confirmation that it worked. So we'll come back in here. Let's just refresh the page. And you can use Stripe's test card for payments, which is just 4242 4 times. And then make sure that the rest of the numbers have an expiration date in the future. So now if we submit the payment, of course we are getting a CSRF error. So let's just add that in here in the form. Okay, I'll just have to refresh the page. Try again. We're getting an invalid parameters error. And this could be because we're not creating an integer value for the amount. So we need to make sure that we do that. And actually this order.getTotal is the amount here that we should be saving on the payment. So I'm going to make sure we put that there. So the server's running, and let's go back to the cart, go to checkout, and okay, we're going to need to go to payment Stripe. Okay, now submit the payment. There we go. Order was now successful. So let's go into the admin, and we're going to need to bring our payment model here. So just import that there. Cool, let's refresh this. Go to payments, admin. There's the Stripe charge ID. There's the amount in dollars. And let's go back to orders, admin. We see there's the item. It's now ordered. And there's the payment. So now the payment is working. And we just need to now make sure that when we submit the checkout form, so if I just add something, then now when we submit this form and I select Stripe, we need to make sure that here in the view, and just scroll up, we can then redirect based on the value of the payment option. And so instead of redirecting to core checkout, what I'm going to do is check for the value of the payment option. So we'll say if the payment option equals S, and there are much better ways to do this, but for simplicity, we'll just keep it like this. So we'll say redirect to core payment, and then we need to pass in the payment option as the value in the URL. So this, and that's going to be equal to Stripe. And we'll say else if payment option equals to P, then it's going to go to PayPal. So we'll say redirect to PayPal. And then we'll say else. We'll show the message and return a redirect back to checkout. And just say invalid payment option selected. So all of that is working. We'll come here and just submit anything in here, and we'll select Stripe, click continue, and we get redirected to the Stripe payment form. And now let's display this order here. So we can go back to the other view, the payment view, and here we're going to say that this order equals that exact call there. And then we'll say context equals to this dictionary, and we'll just say order is order and pass the context in there. Cool. Then back here, we're going to need to display some of that information. So here, this number 3, this is going to be order.items.count. And then we have a list item of the product name, and it's going through 3 times there. So I'm going to get rid of that, and we'll say for item in order.items.all, and then say end for, and then here we'll say this is the item, and double check the models here. So let's just go back. So we're referencing the order item, so this should rather be called order item, and then we can say order item.item.title, and then this will be the description, so item.description, and then this will be, I would say, the total price of that item. So if we come back here to the order item, we can say get final price. So this will be order item dot get final price, and let's save that. And lastly, let's output the order total. So if we come back here, that's going to be order.getTotal. Cool. Let's refresh this. Cool. So we have dummy item 2, but I think it would be cooler if we had something like 2 times dummy item 2, so that you know that you're ordering 2 of that item. So let's just go here to the item title, and we'll say order item.quantity, and then just say X like that. Cool. So now you can see 3 times dummy item 2, which is giving you 600. And you only have 1 item in your cart. So this seems to be pretty good so far. We haven't covered the PayPal payment method because there's still a bunch of other things that we want to cover in this course. So for the time being, we're just going to leave it at having Stripe as the only payment option. But it seems like everything is coming together. And in the next one, we can go back to this checkout view, and we'll start handling promotional codes or discount codes. And actually, just as a last check, let's just go back here to the admin, and we're going to look here at the orders, because now we have a new order, and there you can see the billing address was added to our user. So that's pretty cool. Everything seems to be working. If you're enjoying it so far, leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.